Hello again, second grade. Here we are talking about science for today. This is going to be your last big project. We're going to talk about some concepts and go over some vocabulary words, and then I'll talk about your research report that you're going to complete later on this week and next. And we're going to do a fun lab to finish off the year. So we're going to talk about habitats today. And we have some vocabulary words I'd like to go over. The first one is living things. Now we've talked about this a lot. I think since like the first week of school, we talked about living things. And that is something that is alive and can grow. And we gave lots of examples of this over the whole year. We've talked about living things. We've talked about our tadpole and our bunny. And we've talked about trees and flowers that grow. But we know that like rocks are not something that grows. So that is not a living thing. So we talked about non-living things. These are something that was never alive. Okay, so this is not a tree that fell down in a storm and died and we cut it up and used it for firewood. That was a living thing. It's not alive now because it fell over. But there are some things that were never alive, like that rock. It was never alive. It doesn't take in oxygen. It doesn't grow, it doesn't change. It's always the same. So that's a non-living thing. And now we're going to talk about habitats. We've talked a little bit about this, and I know Mrs. Gerard did in first grade. But a habitat is a place in which a plant or an animal lives. And we're going to talk about different kinds of habitats today. We're going to talk about resources. This is kind of similar to the resources we talked about in social studies. A resource is anything that a plant or animal uses to live. We're going to talk about shelter. This is a lot to do with the types of habitats that animals live in. A shelter is a place where an animal can rest and be safe. You also know you have a shelter. Your home, your house is your shelter. Another big word is environment. We've talked a lot about different environments in science this year. Environments are all of the living things and non-living things that are around a living thing. That's our environment. And this is a new word we may not have talked about this year. It's called erosion. And this means the washing away of land. So let's talk about habitats. A habitat is a natural place in which an animal lives. And there's all kinds of different habitats. We have the Arctic. If Michael K. was here, I'd ask him, what animals are in the Arctic? And what do you think he would say? Yes, he would say penguins are in the Arctic. But what other animals live in the Arctic? What can you think of? Well, there might be walruses or seals or polar bears. How about the desert? That seems like the opposite of the Arctic. What kind of animals live in the desert? Well, there's all kinds of things from scorpions to snakes to camels. How about the ocean? What kind of animals are in the ocean? Well, we have all kinds of fish and coral and whales and sharks. How about the grasslands? What kind of animals are in the grasslands? Well, that might be rabbits, deer. How about the mountains? There's different kinds of big cats like cougars or goats that live in the mountains. How about the forest? Well, this could be all kinds of things from different types of birds, or an owl, maybe a deer or a moose. How about the rainforest? There's all kinds of animals that live in the rainforest. Beautiful types of birds and bugs and all kinds of animals. How about a pond or a river? Well, there are different kinds of animals that are ponds and rivers. We might be talking about turtles or different types of fish. And finally, the beach. Well, what kind of animals are on the beach. Now, I'm not talking about in the water. I'm talking about on the beach part. And we have lots of like little hermit crabs and other kinds of animals that burrow in the sand or that live near the sand. So again, a habitat, a place where plants and animals live. Animals can find the food, the home, and water that they need to live. Plants need soil, they need rain, they need sunlight. Animals and their habitats need other things like food. They also need sunlight. Living things in a habitat depend on other living and non-living things to survive. So, let's talk about some of these habitats. Here are some woodland habitats. So these would be animals that live in the forest or the woods. Maybe you have some in your backyard. Like a squirrel, a skunk, a hedgehog, a rabbit. How about the Arctic or the polar habitat? What are some animals that would live there? Like I said, walrus, the Arctic fox, a penguin, a seal, a moose, a polar bear. How about a mountain habitat? We have some deer that live in the mountains. We have bear, mountain goats, raccoons, different types of big cats like cougars or mountain lions, or we might have fox. And you'll notice that sometimes our habitats can overlap. An animal might not live just in one habitat, but maybe in several different ones, and they might look a little different in those habitats. How about a pond or maybe a river habitat? Well, we would have snails, frogs, different types of fish, turtles, dragonflies, all kinds of different living things in that habitat. How about like a grassland habitat? So this could be, a forest, or it could be grassier. This would be like our big game, zebras, elephant, lion, a rhinoceros, a hippo, a giraffe. That's in those kinds of habitats. Rainforest, all types of beautiful birds like parrots and toucans, but we could also have gorillas, orangutans, different types of snakes like the anaconda or a tree frog. An ocean habitat, all types of fish. We have beautiful seahorses. We have octopus, sharks, whales, lobsters, dolphins, jellyfish, all kinds of things. We have coral in there. The desert. What types of animals live in the desert? Well, we have rattlesnake, an ostrich, an eagle, different types of lizards like geckos and spiders and camels. And then finally, our beach habitat. We have different types of mussels, clams, and oysters, and worms, and starfish, and different types of crab that live on or under the sand in the beach. So that explains all of our habitat. You will be getting a research animal, and you will talk about the different habitat that your animal lives in. We're going to do some really creative project this time. Tomorrow in science, we're going to talk about the adaptations that animals have to make for the different habitat or environment that they live in. So I want you to stay tuned for that video. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time, second grade. Bye.